Hi, everybody. I'm Tim McGuinness with Silver Event Professionals, and I'd like you to welcome you to our series of informal interviews and discussions that we have with leaders in the event industry. These sessions are meant to be fun, informal, and brief. So let's get right to it. I'd like to welcome everybody to welcome the founder and CEO of JD Events, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, welcome.
How you doing, Tim? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you could do this, and thanks for making time for me.
You got it.
Hey, Joe. So just before we get going here, and JD Events, you've been around in business for 22, 23 years. Small. I want to call it boutique organization. Is that fair
Yep.
enough?
Yes, I do. That's what we call it. Yeah.
And well, for those on the listening in that don't know JD, can you give us kind of a quick snapshot of who JD is?
Sure. Happy to. So yeah, I've been in the business for 40 years, believe it or not, now, and about a little over 23 years ago, we just celebrated our 23rd anniversary at JD Events. We started JD Events as what I like to call a trade show incubator. So that's really the business model. We incubate trade shows. So that means we look for new markets to launch into, and we also look for opportunities to acquire, sort of on the low side, like distressed properties, fixer-uppers, if you will. And we look to take these launches or these fixer-uppers and build them up, make them viable, make them profitable, make them market leaders in the markets they serve, and then find new homes for them. So we divest the assets of each business, each show that we launch. Eventually, we find a new home where it can flourish, and a larger organization with deeper pockets and more resources can, take it to the next level, and have a lot of success with it after JD Events has gotten it off the ground. Essentially, that's what we do for our business.
Yeah, and thanks for that overview. That's helpful. Even for me, I knew your business, but that was even, crystallized it even more for me. So, and obviously you've been extraordinarily successful over the 23 years. I know you're a very modest guy, so, but pat yourself on the back. You've done fabulous over the course of 23 years.
I like to say we've had more wins than losses.
Okay. Hey, listen, we're going to get back to JD a little bit later on in the discussion. But listen, here's the fun part of the discussion, Joel.
Uh-oh.
I want to know who Joel is, right?
Okay.
and I like to pepper you with a couple of questions, very informal, right? It's kind of like what first thing that pops in your head in most cases. So be ready.
Could be dangerous.
All right. Hey, listen, Joel, I know you're a golfer.
Yeah.
Right?
I do like golf.
Have you ever had a hole in one?
Yeah, people are gonna probably hate me for this, but yes, I've had 3.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sheer luck. Hole in ones are sheer luck, but I know people who are scratch golfers who hit it next to the pin every time and have never had one. So yeah.
So let me ask you this: Did you buy the house a round of drinks?
That's what hole-in-one insurance is for. It pays for all the drinks at the bar when you're done, so it's worth it.
All righty. Anyway, hey, listen. All right, favorite golf course?
Wow. I had the chance to play Pebble Beach.
Okay.
On my 40th birthday, as a gift, my wife took me out to Pebble Beach, and I got to play out there with my brother. I played a lot of good golf courses, but that is certainly as special as it gets.
Very nice. So anyway, favorite movie?
Well, so many. It depends on the genre, but I'm a big fan of a movie that people might not have heard much of, but it's Diner.
Okay.
It is an all-time classic.
Who's in it?
It's kind of a cult movie. Kevin Bacon, Mickey Rourke, Steve Guttenberg, Ellen Barkin. It's kind of a classic early 80s movie that I recommend highly to anyone.
Okay. All right. I'm watching on Netflix tonight.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Favorite book or last book read?
Um, yeah, I don't know about a favorite. I have a lot. I've kind of the type of books I like to read. First of all nonfiction, pretty much. But I specifically love reading uh, sort of survival stories.
Okay.
Stories about people who have been tested by Mother Nature or war or whatever crisis, and survive. Like John Krakauer, in Into Thin Air type books,
Yeah.
survival stories. The most recent one I read, which I recommend highly, is called A Test of Will.
Okay.
And it's about a guy, sort of world class mountain climber, environmental activist. About 20 years ago, was climbing a mountain in Australia, and he summited the top and was going to come down the next morning, set up camp. Middle of the night, went out to sort of just relieve himself over by a rocky area, and a 2-ton slab of rock happened to slide off the top of the mountain at that moment and crushed his legs. Anyway, long story short, I recommend reading it. This guy survived. It's about how he got through it until help came. It's about his life after, lost
Okay.
both legs.
All right.
He's a motivational speaker and an inspirational guy. He still speaks and actually still climbs with prosthetics at this point,
Okay.
20 years later. So anyway,
All
stuff
right.
like that I really like. Test of Will, I would recommend it to everybody.
Got it. Person you most admire, either professionally or personally.
A lot of heroes and mentors I've had in my life, but I would have to say my father. My
Good,
father
good,
was
good choice. I like that. I like that.
my mentor, and he helped me advised me through all of so many personal and professional situations and relationships that no doubt is my dad.
Great
Was my
choice.
dad. Yeah.
Great choice. What, Joel?
Yeah.
What number am I thinking of?
What number are you thinking of?
Yeah.
My favorite number is 4, so I'm going to go with 4.
No. Joel, your favorite meal?
Well, I went 100% plant-based or vegan 7 years ago when I was
Oh, I didn't
working
know.
on
Okay.
one of our most recent shows.
Okay.
So I'd say one of my wife's uh, nightly unbelievable plant-based pasta dishes that she makes me.
Okay. All right. Joel, last question.
Yeah.
If you were trapped in a foxhole, what person would you most like in there to help you get out?
Hmm. I'm going to go with my sort of partner in crime at JD Events, Lou Mancini.
Okay.
He's my head of operations, our head of operations, head of finance, head of IT, head of everything we do at JD Events for the last 20 plus years. And he's a master at trade shows. He's a volunteer fireman. He bails us out of every problem we've ever been in. So I'm going to have to go with Lou.
Okay. All right. Hey, listen, I want to talk the next couple minutes about your career, right? You had mentioned you're in the business for 40 years, long time. Back in 86, right? Because I did a little bit of research,
Uh-oh.
right? You went to work for a company called Connors Exposition Group, right? Up in
CEG.
Boston.
In Boston, yes.
What possessed you to get in the business and go to work for a company like Connors Exposition Group?
It's a kind of a funny story, serendipity more than anything else. I had just graduated from college. Maybe I was out for a year. I was in Southern New Hampshire. I was selling advertising for a very small AM radio station with a very small radius of reach. And I spent every weekend driving into Boston to see my girlfriend. And I got tired of driving back and forth every weekend, so I decided to get a job in Boston. And one of my best friends, eventual best man, my wedding, was working for CEG, Connors Exposition Group, in the auto show group. And you remember back then, where the Boston office ran all the consumer shows, auto shows,
Yep.
boat shows, home shows,
Yep.
and they were looking to hire a salesperson on the home show group. And I applied, and I got the job. So January '86, I started selling booth space for the New Orleans Home and Garden Show, um, for Connors Exposition Group in Boston. That's where it all began.
And in '86, and you were there for what, approximately 10 years, right? And you did very well over the course of your 10-year career there.
Yeah, I guess I fell in love with the business. I fell in love with it. Within 4 months, they made me a show manager. Within a couple of years, I was a show director, a group show director, and I took over. Was running other shows outside the home show group. I ended up running the food service group, the buildings group, and when Connors or Reed, it became Reed at that point, by '94, when they shut down Boston and Chicago and centralized everything into Connecticut. In '94, I, along with a few other folks in the Boston office, were offered a relocation opportunity to Connecticut. And I, the role was vice president, industry vice president. I was involved in a lot of these different shows, SHOT Show, Book Expo,
Yeah.
food service, in starting in '94, and moved our family. My wife and kids were 1 and 3, so it was a great time to uproot and move. So we moved from Boston to Connecticut in spring of '94, and have been here ever since.
And you made a move in '96. You went over to Prime Media, right?
I did,
How
yes.
did that how did that happen real quick?
Was recruited, had been at Reed for 10 years, and was offered an opportunity to sort of be president of a small trade show organization, as opposed to a vice president of a very large organization at Reed. And so I just took the risk and I jumped, and it turned out to be the best thing I ever did. I had loved Reed and had a great career at Reed. 10 years is really where I cut my teeth, and fell in love with the trade show business. And with Prime Media, it was actually their Intertech exhibition division, that I took over and ran. Was able to sort of learn how to kind of run an organization as opposed to just a division of shows.
And really, at that point, fast forward a little bit to JD in what, 2002. Um, yeah, listen, you open up your own shop, right? I mean, that's obviously very risky, right? As an entrepreneur, no, it is, right? We
Yeah.
all know that.
Oh yeah.
Listen, you're a very smart guy, and but it's also very risky, and the challenges are out there. What motivated you? I mean, I kind of know the motive. Yeah, obviously, we're all motivated to do our own thing, but it is a risky proposition. So, what kind of motivated you to move forward with that?
So it was certainly a motivation to run my own enterprise and do things. I always felt like I had some instincts that that when working for a big company, there's certain things you're not allowed to do or can't do, and I always felt like if I could do this myself, I could do it better. Never knew if that was true or not. Um, but I also at the time was running shows for running a division for iMark Communications,
Sure.
in 2001, and that was when 911 happened.
Right.
And the trade show industry was sort of very much in a tough spot. The tech bubble had burst. iMarked all their shows were tech. So there was an opportunity. So it wasn't just my motivation; it was also timing.
Okay.
And I saw an opportunity to sort of create a win-win situation for myself and our team, and iMark at the same time, and was able to sort of work out a situation where we spun off from iMark in January of '02 to start this incubator concept, and saved them money in the process. They paid us a management fee for running one of their shows.
So it's a
Um,
little bit sounds like there was a little bit of a safety net there. I don't want,
yeah,
overemphasize it, but
well,
it sounds like it.
yeah, well, I had a couple of show ideas in the hopper, sort of in development, in incubation. So I was able to sort of start a new business with a management fee coming from iMark, um, uh, and get those shows off the ground. So I had income day one. I had a team day one in January of '02, and was able to reduce their cost platform by paying us a management fee instead of all of our salaries. So at the time, they had some challenges. They needed to sort of cut costs. So I was able to, fortunately, timing wise, was able to structure an arrangement whereby it helped them and it allowed us to get JD Events off the ground. And even though the economy was in a tough spot
Yep.
and trade shows were challenged at that time, and everybody said no one's going to do trade shows anymore. No one's going to, everyone's
Right.
going to do it. Everything's going to be online, right? Virtual
Right.
is going to win the day. I never believed it. I felt like if we can start something in the worst of times, it can only get better from here. And I also just believe in my heart that face to face is never going away. No matter what the technology is, as long as people rule the world. They need human contact. You need in-person interaction in order to network and do business, at least the first time you meet.
So I want to talk about recently, you made the trade press recently, right? And I know
Mhm.
your business model is primarily to incubate shows and kind of spin them off and find the right home for them where they can kind of flourish. And the plant-based show, which
Yep.
was a show that I've been to, very successful. I don't know if that was one of your brainchild or somebody else's, but anyway, it was successful. And you recently, obviously, were in the news about Emerald, who just acquired that show. Kind of take us through that real quick, and take us through a little bit of plant based too.
Sure. Well, this is kind of one of the coolest stories of my professional career, anyway, and personal life, because as you mentioned, not sure who came up with this idea. The idea was developed by my son, my son Ben, 7 years ago, a little more than 7 years ago, sort of end of 2017. I had just sold Drone World Expo, a commercial
Sure.
drone show,
Yep.
to Diversified. I was looking for the next great launch idea. And my son was home for a little bit, sort of in transition in between a few things. And I figured someone who's in their 20s, someone who's a little younger, might have a better idea or two of what the future, market opportunities are than I do. So I had him come in for a couple of weeks and asked him to just, do some research, come up with some ideas, develop some new concepts, and see if he can sort of suggest the next great trade show idea for JD Events to launch.
Was this all for pro bono here?
Yeah, well, no, I paid him, but it wasn't a lot. And 2 weeks later, he came to us and said, "Hey, I've got like a dozen ideas to present to you guys."
No.
He presented 12 trade show ideas with the market, profile, the exhibitor and attendee profile, the market dynamics, who the partners would be. Um, I've gotten really good at shutting ideas down over the years. Like, I'm really good at saying no and sort of knowing what's not going to work. I was able to shoot 11 of the 12 down pretty quickly. But the one plant-based one, I couldn't say no to. I started doing my own research, and started opening up my eyes, and ultimately asked him to write a business plan. He wrote a business plan. He presented that. But before we pulled the trigger on it, before we invested company resources and people into it, because I was, very convinced this was a winner, I needed to sort of test it and have a professional, independent research organization sort of validate the concept. So we hired a Brian Sherwood, who used to be at Reed,
Sure.
and he did a very in-depth research project, to test this concept, and to sort of give us the thumbs up or thumbs down. And he came back, said initially I was sort of skeptical, but now that I've done this research and I've talked to companies and I've looked at what the future looks like, said I think you're onto something here. So
So how
anyway,
many?
we pulled the trigger in spring of 18, and we held our first one in June of 2019.
So it's really a 4 to 5 year old show, right? And I knew, right, the idea based upon the JD business model is to, kind of catch and release, right?
Yep.
And you just recently did that with Emerald. And so, did it meet your expectations or your timeline as far as when you wanted to release, or do you have any involvement at all anymore at this point with plant based, or are you totally divested at this point?
We're totally divested, although we have a transition services arrangement where we're helping with certain aspects until the Emerald team can get up and running, sort of behind the scenes stuff. The team that worked on plant based works for Emerald now. So we had 3 full-time folks who are in the UK.
Does that include your son?
Yeah, he's an independent contractor,
Okay.
and with us, and he is with Emerald. So he does content, conference programming, online content, for a plant-based World Pulse product, is online news. So he's with Emerald now. The full-time dedicated team is with Emerald now, and we had a show in the US and the UK, New York and London, that are with Emerald now, and we're supporting and advising as we need, but they've got the team in place, and they're good to go.
Well, listen, Joel, congratulations on that. It's and it couldn't happen to a better person. And the one bit of advice that I do have before I wrap this up is now that you made all that money with selling to Emerald, you need to go back and buy all those people a round of drinks for those 3 holes in one that you had that you stiffed them on. So
I'll be happy to go see if they're still in the bar.
Anyway, Joe, hey, listen, we've run over. I could talk to you much
Okay.
longer, but we ran over. So I do appreciate it. And it's always great seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thanks for having me, Tim.
All right, Joel. Take care.
All right, see ya.
All right. Bye.